Something profound is unfolding in your reality right now, and most people walking this earth will never recognize it. It won't arrive with grand announcements or cosmic fanfare. It won't shake the ground beneath your feet or light up the sky. But if you've landed here, if some invisible thread pulled your attention to this exact moment, then you're already sensing it. That electric current running through your awareness, that whisper of knowing that your entire existence is about to undergo a fundamental transformation. You recognize that sensation when you're poised at the precipice of something magnificent, yet the other side remains veiled in mystery. That's precisely where you find yourself now. When most souls encounter this edge, they retreat. They convince themselves that safety lies in the predictable, in the familiar territories where the game is known and the rules are clear. But you haven't left. You're still present, which reveals something essential about your nature. You're prepared to witness what's been orchestrating itself behind the scenes of your experience, while your conscious mind was occupied elsewhere. Here's the secret about these threshold moments that no one discusses. They don't manifest as you've been conditioned to expect. There's no divine alarm piercing the silence, no celestial messenger announcing your moment of destiny. Instead, it arrives as a curious blend of exhaustion and electric possibility. Like you've been shouldering an invisible burden for so long that you'd forgotten what it meant to move through the world without that weight. Then, almost imperceptibly, without conscious intention, your grip begins to soften. That inner restlessness that's been building within you lately, that growing sense that you're expanding beyond the boundaries of your current existence. This isn't coincidence. This isn't some psychological crisis that requires suppression or pharmaceutical intervention. This is your essence preparing for quantum expansion. This is your consciousness calibrating itself for an elevation that will render your present challenges as preliminary training grounds. You've probably started observing peculiar patterns emerging around you. Specific numbers appearing with uncanny frequency. Conversations that seem to address your inner dialogue directly. Individuals manifesting in your path at precisely the moment you need their specific wisdom. Books revealing themselves to pages that appear personally authored for your journey. Music stopping you mid-stride because the lyrics articulate thoughts you've carried but couldn't express. This isn't your mind creating meaning where none exists. This is existence responding to the vibrational signature you've been transmitting. When someone approaches their next evolutionary threshold, their energetic frequency begins shifting. They start magnetizing different experiences, different possibilities, different souls. Reality begins orchestrating itself in their favor, not as reward for good behavior, but because they've finally synchronized with the pattern that was always their destiny. But here's where the process becomes fascinating. And this distinction separates those who actually transcend from those who remain cycling through identical patterns for lifetimes. Most individuals, when they begin experiencing this shift, when these signs become undeniable, they panic. They begin questioning their perceptions. They search for evidence that nothing is truly changing, that they're simply experiencing delusions or misplaced optimism. They rationalize the synchronicities as random chance. They attribute the opportunities to fortunate timing. They dismiss the meaningful connections as casual encounters without deeper significance. Through this denial, through refusing to acknowledge the unfolding miracle, they actually repel the very transformation that's seeking to embrace them. Breakthrough moments demand a particular form of courage, not the reckless bravery that inspires skydiving or impulsive career abandonment. The courage that permits you to trust your inner knowing even when external evidence remains absent. The courage that allows intuitive action even when rational thought demands more data. As you absorb these words, you're experiencing what I call the awakening phase. This is where you begin recognizing that all those seemingly random experiences from your history, those apparent failures and detours and catastrophes, they weren't random at all. They were preparation. They were constructing something within you that you'll require for what approaches. That position you lost, that felt catastrophic. That relationship that dissolved when everything seemed perfect. That entrepreneurial venture that collapsed despite your dedication. That health crisis that forced complete life reassessment. That period of darkness when nothing held meaning. Every experience that registered as defeat was actually strategic positioning. They were installing capacities within you that couldn't be developed through any other means. Resilience independent of external approval. Strength that remains stable under pressure. Wisdom unavailable through academic study. Compassion born from navigating your own shadows. Faith that's been tested and verified. These aren't simply admirable qualities. These are the precise instruments you'll need for the level of existence you're about to enter. Consider this. If you had received everything you desired 5 years ago, if your path had been smooth and predictable, would you possess the same depth today? Would you have the understanding, the capacity to handle what's approaching? Almost certainly not. You needed to become exactly who you are now to be ready for what you're about to receive. What you're approaching isn't a single improvement. It's not merely a better job or increased income or the ideal partnership. While those elements might manifest, what's coming is a complete recalibration of your entire experience. A new way of existing that will make your current life feel like you were performing a role in someone else's narrative. You'll begin making choices from certainty rather than hope. You'll stop seeking permission to express your authentic nature. You'll attract people and opportunities that match your genuine frequency instead of accepting whatever appears available. You'll create from inspiration rather than desperation. But here's what you must understand about this transformation. It won't happen instantaneously, and it won't feel comfortable. Evolution never does. You'll need to release versions of yourself that feel familiar, but no longer serve your growth. You'll need to dissolve relationships that can't accommodate your expansion. You'll need to abandon situations that worked for your former self, but don't align with who you're becoming. This is where most people falter. This is where they reach the gateway of their breakthrough and then retreat to familiar territory. Because release feels like loss, even when what you're releasing was never truly yours. Even when what you're letting go has been slowly depleting your life force for years. You'll experience moments in the coming weeks and months where everything feels uncertain, where you question whether trusting this process is a terrible mistake, where you observe others who appear satisfied with their predictable existence and wonder if you should simply appreciate what you have rather than reaching for something you can't guarantee. Those moments of uncertainty aren't indicators of wrong direction. They're confirmation that you're moving along exactly the right path. Because doubt only emerges when you're advancing towards something meaningful, when you're about to claim something genuinely valuable, when you're stepping into a version of yourself that terrifies the part of you that's been controlling your experience. Here's something that might astonish you. The aspect of yourself that's been limiting your potential, keeping you contracted, whispering reasons to remain where you are. It's not your adversary. It's been attempting protection through the only methods it knows. It learned early that visibility brought danger, that standing out invited criticism, that ambitious dreams led to disappointment. So it constructed barriers around your possibilities. It generated stories about your lack of readiness, your need for more experience, your requirement to wait for better timing. It convinced you that your grandest visions were unrealistic, that your deepest longings were selfish, that your truest self was somehow too intense for the world to embrace. But what that protective aspect doesn't comprehend is that you're no longer the person who required those barriers. You've developed greater strength, deeper wisdom, enhanced capability than the child who needed that protection. Now those same walls that once provided safety have become your prison. The breakthrough approaching isn't merely about accomplishing external objectives. It's about finally encountering yourself without all the defenses, without all the personas, without all the narratives about who you should be instead of who you actually are. It's about discovering that the person you've been concealing is precisely the person the world has been waiting to meet. You'll start noticing that conversations flow with different energy when you speak from your authentic voice, that opportunities manifest when you stop forcing and begin allowing, that people respond with greater respect when you stop seeking their approval and start honoring your own truth. That existence becomes easier, not because challenges vanish, but because you're finally working with your natural gifts instead of against them. But here's the reality about natural gifts. Most people spend their entire lives attempting to excel at things they were never designed to master. They select careers based on parental expectations or societal validation or practical considerations. They develop abilities that appear impressive theoretically, but feel like wearing incorrectly sized shoes. Your breakthrough will involve finally acknowledging what you've always been naturally magnetized toward. Those interests you dismissed as mere hobbies. Those subjects that ignite you despite being considered unserious. Those ways of serving that feel effortless to you but appear impossible to others. What if the things that flow naturally to you aren't shortcuts or limitations? What if they're actually your superpowers? What if the reason certain activities energize you while others drain you is because you're finally touching the edge of your true purpose? The timing of this recognition isn't coincidental. You couldn't have perceived this clearly 5 years ago because you needed those years to develop the confidence to trust your natural inclinations. You needed to experience the conventional path first to appreciate the unconventional one. You needed to understand what misalignment feels like to recognize alignment when you encounter it. Everything is about to accelerate dramatically, not in a chaotic, overwhelming manner, but in a way that feels like you're finally moving with the current instead of struggling against it. Decisions that previously required months of deliberation will become instantly obvious. People who resonate with your new direction will appear from seemingly nowhere. Resources you need will materialize exactly when required. This isn't mystical, though it may feel miraculous. This is what occurs when someone stops battling their essential nature and begins collaborating with it. When they stop attempting to fit into spaces they were never meant to occupy and start creating spaces that fit them perfectly. You'll look back on this period and recognize it as the pivot point, the moment when everything shifted from happening to you to happening through you. When you stopped being a passenger in your own experience and became the creator. When you stopped reacting to circumstances and started generating them. But here's what makes this moment even more powerful. There's a quantum field principle that most people never learn about. When you're in this recognition phase, when you're seeing these patterns and feeling this shift, You're not just experiencing personal transformation. You're actually becoming what quantum physicists call a coherent oscillator in the field of possibility. What does this mean? It means that your awareness of this breakthrough is actually accelerating its manifestation. The quantum field responds to conscious observation. The more clearly you can see what's happening, the more quickly it happens. This is why you're watching this video right now. Your consciousness is participating in its own elevation. Think about this. Every person who has ever made a significant breakthrough in human history went through this exact process. They reached a point where they could see the patterns, feel the shift, recognize the signs, and then they had to make a choice. Trust what they were experiencing or talk themselves out of it. The ones who changed the world, who left their mark, who lived extraordinary lives, they trusted the process even when they couldn't prove it to anyone else. They understood that breakthrough moments don't wait for perfect conditions. They create perfect conditions through the act of moving forward. Now I want you to pause here for a moment and really feel what's happening in your body as you absorb these words. Notice any sensations, any shifts, any recognition. Because what you're feeling right now is your system beginning to recalibrate. This isn't just information you're receiving. This is activation. Take a moment and comment below with this phrase: I am ready for my quantum breakthrough. Don't just type it casually, feel it as you write it. Let it be a declaration to the field, a conscious interruption in the old pattern, an energetic signature that you're choosing transformation over comfort. This comment isn't for me or for the algorithm. It's for you. It's your way of stepping into the observer role in your own quantum transformation. Because when you declare your readiness, you literally change the probability field around you. But there's another layer to this that most spiritual teachers won't tell you, because they don't understand the science behind it. When you're in this breakthrough phase, you're not just changing your own reality. You're actually affecting the collective field. Your transformation creates ripples that make it easier for others to transform. This is why breakthrough moments often happen in clusters. This is why revolutionary periods in history seem to produce multiple breakthroughs simultaneously. It's not coincidence, it's field resonance. When one person breaks through to a new level of consciousness, they make that level more accessible to everyone else. So your breakthrough isn't just about you. It's about what you enable for others. It's about the permission you give simply by becoming who you really are. It's about the frequency you hold that allows others to access their own transformation. This is the deeper purpose of what you're experiencing. You're not just upgrading your own existence, you're contributing to the elevation of human consciousness itself. You're becoming a bridge between where humanity has been and where it's going. And here's something beautiful. The more aligned you become with your authentic nature, the more you naturally serve this larger purpose. You don't have to figure out how to help humanity evolve. You just have to become who you really are, and your very existence becomes a gift to the world. This is why the old patterns had to break down. This is why the comfortable life had to become uncomfortable. This is why you've been feeling restless and dissatisfied. Your soul knew that you had a larger purpose to fulfill, and it wouldn't let you settle for anything less than your full potential. Now, if this is resonating with you, if you can feel the truth of these words in your bones, take a moment to like this video and subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency, this space of conscious transformation. Because what we're creating here isn't just content consumption. It's a community of souls who are choosing evolution over stagnation. who are brave enough to trust their inner knowing even when the world doesn't understand. When you subscribe, you're joining a conversation that extends beyond these videos. You're connecting with a field of possibility that includes everyone who's committed to becoming who they really are. You're adding your energy to a collective that's literally changing the world through individual transformation. And here's the science behind why this matters. Consciousness is contagious. When you spend time in the field of people who are evolving, you evolve faster. When you're surrounded by others who are breaking through limitations, your own limitations become easier to transcend. This isn't just motivation. This is quantum field dynamics. The breakthrough you're experiencing is part of a larger awakening that's happening across the planet right now. More and more people are reaching this recognition phase simultaneously. More souls are feeling the call to step into their authentic power. More individuals are choosing growth over comfort. You're not alone in this process. You're part of a movement that's been building for decades and is now reaching a critical mass. And the timing isn't random. You're here now because this is when your contribution is needed most. So let me ask you something. What would change in your life if you fully trusted this process? What would you do differently if you knew with absolute certainty that everything you've been sensing is real? What would you create? What would you release? What would you become if you had the courage to follow your inner knowing completely? These aren't rhetorical questions. These are invitations. These are doorways into the life that's waiting for you on the other side of this breakthrough. Because here's what I know about people who are watching videos like this. You're not here by accident. You're not seeking entertainment or distraction. You're seeking confirmation of what you already know. You're seeking permission to trust what you're feeling. You're seeking the courage to step into what you're becoming. And I'm here to tell you, everything you're sensing is real. Every intuition you're having is valid. Every pull you're feeling towards something greater is your soul's GPS guiding you home to yourself. The world needs who you really are, not who you think you should be. The world needs your authentic gifts, not your imitation of someone else's talents. The world needs your unique perspective, not your version of what you think is acceptable. But let's go deeper into what this breakthrough actually looks like on a practical level. Because understanding the mechanics of transformation helps you navigate it with greater ease and trust the process even when it feels chaotic. Your breakthrough will likely manifest in 3 distinct waves, each with its own characteristics and challenges. The first wave is what I call the dissolution phase. This is where the old structures in your life begin to crack and crumble. Relationships that were based on who you used to be start feeling strained. Work that once satisfied you becomes unbearable. Habits that used to comfort you lose their appeal. This isn't destruction. This is creation making space for itself. During this dissolution phase, you might feel like everything is falling apart. You might panic and try to hold on to what's dissolving. But here's what you need to understand. You can't force old wine into new wineskins. The container of your old life simply cannot hold the expanded version of who you're becoming. Something has to give, and what gives is always what no longer serves your highest evolution. The second wave is what I call the void phase. This is perhaps the most challenging part of any breakthrough, because it's the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's the gap between the old identity that's dissolving and the new one that hasn't fully emerged yet. In this phase, you might feel lost, confused, even depressed. You might question everything you thought you knew about yourself and your purpose. But the void isn't empty. It's pregnant with infinite possibility. This is where your new self gestates. This is where the quantum field rearranges itself around your new frequency. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something profound is being born. The third wave is the integration phase. This is where your new reality begins to solidify around you. New opportunities appear that perfectly match your evolved consciousness. People enter your life who can see and appreciate who you've become. Resources manifest to support your new direction. What felt impossible in your old reality becomes natural in your new one. But here's what most people don't realize about this process. It's not linear. You don't go through dissolution, then void, then integration in a neat, predictable sequence. Instead, these phases spiral through each other. You might be integrating in one area of your life while dissolving in another. You might touch the void one day and feel fully integrated the next. This spiraling nature of transformation is actually a feature, not a bug. It allows you to process the changes gradually instead of being overwhelmed by total upheaval all at once. It gives you time to adapt, to find your footing, to build confidence in your new way of being. Now, what we've explored today is really just the surface of what becomes possible when you understand the complete science of frequency transmission and conscious broadcasting. The breakthrough you're experiencing right now is your first glimpse into what I call the 9 master frequencies, each one a gateway into deeper levels of consciousness mastery, from breaking free from survival static all the way to living as the field itself, rather than separate from it. If you're feeling called to dive deeper into this complete system, I've compiled everything into Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Now, there's another aspect of breakthrough that's rarely discussed, but absolutely crucial to understand: the role of resistance. Not just your internal resistance, but the resistance from the field around you. When you begin to vibrate at a higher frequency, the lower frequencies in your environment will initially push back. This is a law of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This means that as you step into your power, you might experience increased challenges from external sources. People might react negatively to your changes. Unexpected obstacles might appear in your path. Systems that used to work for you might suddenly become problematic. This isn't the universe testing you or punishing you. This is the old frequency trying to pull you back into resonance with it. Understanding this principle changes everything about how you navigate your breakthrough. Instead of interpreting resistance as a sign that you're on the wrong path, you can recognize it as confirmation that you're changing frequencies. Instead of backing down when things get challenging, you can lean in with greater commitment to your transformation. The key is learning to move through resistance without taking it personally. The cashier who's rude to you isn't responding to you personally. They're responding to the frequency you're emanating that's different from what they're used to. The friend who suddenly becomes critical isn't necessarily trying to hurt you. They're unconsciously trying to maintain the dynamic that felt familiar and safe. This is why having a community of people who understand the transformation process is so valuable. When you're surrounded by others who recognize what you're going through, you don't have to question your sanity or your path. You can navigate the challenges with greater ease because you understand they're part of the process, not obstacles to it. But there's an even deeper layer to consider: the role of what I call quantum coherence in your breakthrough. In quantum physics, coherence refers to the degree to which waves are synchronized. When waves are coherent, they amplify each other. When they're incoherent, they cancel each other out. Your breakthrough is essentially about achieving coherence between your inner knowing and your outer expression. For most of your life, these have been out of sync. You've known things internally that you haven't expressed externally. You've felt called toward things that you've reasoned yourself out of. You've had intuitions that you've dismissed as impractical. This incoherence creates a kind of energetic friction that's exhausting. It's like driving with the brakes on. You're trying to move forward while simultaneously holding yourself back. The breakthrough you're experiencing is your system naturally moving toward coherence, aligning your inner truth with your outer reality. As this coherence increases, several things happen. First, decision-making becomes effortless. When your inner knowing and outer expression are aligned, choices become obvious. You don't have to weigh pros and cons endlessly because your intuition provides clear direction that your rational mind can trust. Second, your energy levels increase dramatically. When you're no longer fighting against your own nature, when you're no longer maintaining false personas, when you're no longer suppressing your authentic expression, enormous amounts of energy are freed up. This energy can then be directed toward creating the life you actually want, rather than maintaining the life you thought you should want. Third, synchronicities multiply exponentially. When you're coherent, you become a clear signal in the quantum field. The universe can read you easily and respond accordingly. Opportunities, people, and resources can find you because you're no longer broadcasting mixed messages about what you want and who you are.